So we are here with Sunny Rehab. How's he going? What's going
Not too
down?
bad. How are you? Do
Yeah, all good, fella. All good. How are you getting on with quarantine and everything? You staying busy?
you know what? It's a bit of a what are they calling it? A Corona coaster, aren't they?
Roller coaster.
It's a bit mad. I've got days where I'm fine, everything's all good, and then days where I'm like, oh shit, this is rough, man. This is rough. But yeah, it is what it is, isn't it? Like, there's no joke. People are dying at the end of the day, and having a bit of that of a bad day is nothing. So it is. It's weird. It's weird. It's something that we need to accustom to. What about you? How are you finding it, man?
To be fair, of all things, I'm actually quite other than the obvious the horrible things that are going on. The break itself, the isolation side of it, I'm finding quite refreshing. That time just to I think it's given a lot of people a bit of I don't know, a bit of realism about everything they've got in their life, how easily it can be taken away, and how you need to be able to adapt in that situation. And
Do you know what? It's spot on. It's spot on. It's like it's kind of press reset on everything, isn't it? It's like no matter how sort of busy your life was or how bad it was, you've got this time now where you can readjust everything, put everything back together, and go again when that time is. So there's pros to it, but I don't know, man. It's just take every day as it comes, isn't it?
this is it. It's the only way you can really deal with it, because otherwise you let it overwhelm you and consume you.
That's it,
So
man.
pre-corona, talk to us about your journey into everything. Tell us about what you're doing now, and
Oh, mate. So it's been. It feels like it's been forever, to be honest. It feels like it's been absolutely forever because I've been in this field. So when did I start actually? So it must have been about 14 years. Now I'm coming up to 30. So you're thinking, how the hell did he start into like sports performance rehab 14 years? But it's literally been the only thing that I've done and known to varying different degrees. So I went to. I used to play sport at quite a decent level when I was younger. I say sport, I was quite athletic. I was actually shit at most sports, but I was actually really athletic. So it used to carry me over in a lot of stuff. So when I was like, I think it was, must have been about 13. Yeah, 13, 14. And I was in middle school. And my teacher at the time, he took me to athletics because I was kind of quick, but I didn't know how quick I was back in the day. He took me to athletics, and I didn't know anything about it. He just goes, right, you're going to run this race, the 200 meters. Just run as fast as you can, stay in your lane, that's it. I was like, fine. So I pulled up in these like red Total 90 AstroTurfs, right? Do you remember the ones with the like side laces?
yep.
Yeah. So I pulled up them, right? Didn't know anything about anything. So all these guys were there. They had their spikes, they had their vests, they had everything. I had like a Daubeny PE top, my shorts, my Total 90s. I just tied them up real tight, and we're all set to go. Everyone's sort of lining up with the starting blocks, obviously, and I'm standing up. So I'm thinking, I don't know what to do here. So I think it was Mr. Bessie at the time. He was like, right, just stay behind this line, go as fast as you can, round this bend, and then. So I was like, okay. So the gun goes, bang, go for it. And I'm pegging it, pegging it, pegging it. Don't even look round. Finish the race. I come first. I was like, fuck. So he looked at the time. He was like, Sonny, this is a pretty decent time. Next thing I knew, I got some spikes, did a little bit of training, and I was running for county. Like just after that, then doing 200 meters for county at like 13, 14, super quick for my age. Got to county football. Again, I wasn't technically great at football. I was okay, but I was just stupidly quick. And then doing athletics, any kind of sport at that age between 13 and 16, I put my hand to, I was good at. I was really good at. Then when I got to 16, I broke my leg. So I was playing football, and it was just a Sunday league game, and I broke my leg. So I was actually playing under someone else at the time. It was a little bit naughty. And it was just one of those stupid games. Someone rang me late, said, can you play? I was, at that age, you don't care. You want to play as much as you can. So I was like, yeah, yeah, no worries. And I was playing under someone else. 5 minutes into the game, bang, my leg snaps. And we're playing in Luton. Someone comes rushing into a tackle. I turn one way, snap my leg. After that point, there, when I snapped my leg and I was coming back in, trying to get back into sport, that period of mending and rehabbing, I knew I was going to get into physio. That was it. I had that in my brain. So when you say like how far does it go back? It goes back from that point. So I broke my leg, started mending myself. I was under the NHS physio, and you know the NHS pre-coronavirus got a lot of stick, and it's not because of the physiotherapy's fault or like the practitioner's fault. They're under like huge amount of stress. They don't have the right systems in place. They don't have the right resources. They're underfunded. So they did the best job they could do at that time. So I just started reading around the subject. They got me walking again, but never back to sport. So I started reading around the subject, doing things like extracurricular stuff about how to mend myself. And it just clicked. Everything just clicked around physio and sort of rehab. At school, I was never clever. I wasn't smart at all at school. I was like C grade, just coasted along. But for some reason, with that subject, everything just clicked. The science behind it just all fell into line. So when I was 16, I chose to go to college, do sport development, coaching and fitness. From 16, carried on playing sport again, but I could never get back to the same level that I was because, like I said to you, I wasn't great at sport and my athletic ability was taken away. So I was average at everything. I turned into an average Joe. So from there, 16, went to uni to do sports therapy. After university, my undergrad, I started my postgrad in sports medicine and then did my master's in sports medicine. So that was kind of my education. It started from that point, playing sport at a young age, broke my leg, and then it kind of carried through. And then there's obviously like multiple journeys within that as well. So that's where it kind of started from, man.
I mean, that's really interesting, the fact it took you to get injured to then get into the sort of rehab side. But in saying that, how else are you really going to appreciate the value of it and also the systems of it all? Because, you know, it's all well and good reading about things that you aren't a part of until it affects you physically to that extent. Not necessarily has to be, but it really gives you that application.
It's exactly it. Like most of the people I was on my course with, they were exactly the same. So they played sport at a decent level. They got injured, they had surgery. You go through that sort of personal problem, and then you have a different appreciation for that field. You become more empathetic. It turns you into a completely different practitioner than if you just, I want to do a bit of physio. You go into it, you come out of it, and you can tell the people that don't really care about the trade or the field or the people that they're treating. But yeah, that's how it kind of happened, man. And it's a journey. It's been a bloody journey, man.
So, have you heard the podcast I've done with Micky Mills? He talks about starting to work with you and how much that sort of changed his career as it is today now.
Yeah, I heard that was one of the first ones you did, Dan, wasn't it?
That was the first one I did.
Yeah, mate, you've got a knack for it. You've done. I think have you done one every day?
I've done 3 most days.
Yeah, you bloody hell, man.
Got to make the most out of these quarantine, man. I've got loads of time. But yeah,
do you know what? Why not? But yeah, no, that was the first one you did. You've hit the ground running with it. Fair play to you, man. But yeah, heard that. Yeah, wicked. Everything Micky was talking about is. Do you know what? As you get older, you forget a lot of stuff, and you move on to the next thing, and it was quite like it took you down memory lane. So you're just like, I forgot about that. And then this happened, and I forgot about that. And then this happened, and I forgot about that. But yeah, I met Micky when he must have been, so he taught, when was it? Youth Engagement Solutions. So he would have been 19. He must have been 9. I couldn't have been much older than 19. I was 22, 23. And he mentioned I was finishing my master's at the time. And that's when he kind of started. And the journey kind of just developed from there, man. So finishing my master's, and then I opened Kinetic, and everything kind of just exploded from there. So that's why when Micky talks about it, he says me and him go like quite far back. We go as far as, you know, the journey starts in terms of his boxing career.
So that's 7 years around about. So there's a few things you've sort of brushed over. Let's go into a bit more detail, a few of these. So your background going from sports physio to performance coach for Micky. How has that journey sort of gone in a sense of your independent research side of things? And
do you know what? It's more of a craft. So in sports therapy, you do elements of sports. Well, sports rehab's a massive thing, and then sports strength conditioning. From there, I went and did obviously my masters. But the thing is about exercise, it all follows the same timeline, right? So let's say from injury to performance, if you understand that timeline, you can do most things across it. So let's say a personal trainer, for example, right? Their line would be someone who wants to get fit / competition. For mine, when we had to study, it was from the second they had their surgery to competition phase. So we're covering all bases. Now, you never really specialize in any aspect, but you have to be competent in everything. Micky come up to me and said, right, this is what I want to do. This is how I want to do it. And the biggest thing you learn when you study is how to research. And once I get my teeth into something, I don't stop. I'm quite obsessive in pretty much anything I do, man. Like today I was cooking a Thai green curry. You should have seen the levels I went to like 3 days before just to make sure everything was like absolutely spot on. But it's just one of those things that I've always had. So he comes up to me and says, look, I want to do this, this, and this, or I want to do this, this, and this. And I'm like, right, okay, you're kind of doing it wrong here. You're doing it right here. And then he started talking to me one day about his kind of like weight cuts and everything that he was saying. And this is no like discredit to the boxing community at all, because I think a lot of what happens is it's bro science, right? So someone's told someone else what's worked for them, and then someone's told someone else what's worked for them. But the problem with that is anecdotal. So it's like, so it's worked for one person, but taking all the variables out of it, it's not going to work for another. So I was sitting there and explaining to Micky, this doesn't sound right. Like how you're doing your weight cut, it doesn't match up to how you're supposed to perform. So I was like, look, I started putting things together, I started researching some stuff, and I said, this is how I would kind of do it. And a lot of the stuff that I've looked at is, have you heard of George Lockhart?
Yeah, the Conor McGregor's nutritionist and weight cutting.
Yeah, well, George Lockhart, he's not just Conor McGregor. He pretty much does everyone in the UFC. So he would do Conor McGregor's and then who Conor McGregor's fighting as well. And he says it straight. He's like, look, I'm doing weight cuts for both camps, like it or not. And most fighters don't really care about it. But a lot of the stuff that he sort of preaches about, it sang on the same hymn sheet that I was like looking at. And I was like, fucking hell, this guy, this is how it should be done. So I said to Mick, look, this is what I think. This is how we should do this. This is how we should do that. What do you think? And he goes, do you know what? Like, we've got nothing to lose. Let's kind of try it. And obviously, because it was Micky, I didn't want to get anything wrong. So I was making sure everything was sort of covered. So Micky was kind of like, not the first guinea pig, but the first to sort of trial the weight cut, my philosophy in weight cutting. And it worked. I didn't do it like, there was nothing drastic I did. Everything was all backed up by data and science, but everything worked. And then Micky obviously told someone else. Next thing I know, someone else from East Area is coming up to me. Brenna's coming up to me. This person's coming up to me. And the thing with weight cutting, it's a craft. It's not this is a formula. It's a craft that you have to adjust to different people and different things. And it can get quite complex. And that's why you have to be, I always say to fighters, you have to be so careful. If you're doing your own weight cuts, fine. But you have to be really careful in how you do it. There's so many variables to it. Like, you fighting the day before. Are you fighting on the day? When's your weight? Do you know what I mean? So going back to your original question. So I went up to Micky and said, look, this is how I think we should do it. And he said, fine, like, let's do the weight cut. So that happened. Everything was success with that. And then I started looking into his training and how he was training and the things around that. And I was like, Mick, sorry, man. Like, I hear what you're doing, but I think things should be periodized a little bit. And he was like, what's that? I was like, right, sit down. So this is where
There we go. It'll be a while.
Yeah, literally. Get my PowerPoint out, get my slides out, get everything. I was like, look, this is how I think we should do it. And do you know what, Micky, right? This guy is a complete soldier. There's two people in the world that, actually three, George as well. Me, Sid, and George, that whatever we say, this guy would do. Like, I don't need to convince him too much, but I do like to get my argument across with point A, point B, 1A, 1, 2. Like, I do like to get it across with that. And he will just do it. If I say, right, don't do this, don't do this, there is some fight back with it, but he will just do it. Next thing I know, I was doing his weight cut. I was sort of overlooking his strength and conditioning. I was obviously the injury part of it come into that naturally, and it just sort of evolved from there. Next, anything to do, barring the actual technical side of boxing, anything to do performance-wise, I was overlooking everything, and I was like, "Fuck!" It's just gone from this to this to this to this, and it just kind of escalated. So yeah, I wouldn't say it was self-taught. It was all data-driven, and like it was all put together through research. But it just, one thing led to another, and then obviously Micky told this person, that person, and then I'll get kind of like, "Oh, Sonny's a nutritionist." I'm not a nutritionist by any stretch of the means. I would never ever claim to be a nutritionist, but I have I know how to weight cut confidently, and I know how to periodize strength conditioning plans, and I know how to, you know what I mean? So it was never. I'm a sports therapist through and through, and that's what I'm trained in. But all these things come together, and next thing I know, you sort of create your own job title, I suppose, and then just that's how it kind of like blew up on the fighting side. But obviously, he's like my best mate, so we go way back on that side as well. And if anything, people say like, "Oh, how does that work? Like working with Micky, mate, it's the best. It's so easy. It's so easy to work with Mick. It's the easiest thing. I'll just say, right, do this, do this, do this." Doesn't ever question it. Work is work. Afterwards, we take the piss out of each other. Like we'll go jiu-jitsu, all the rest of it. Like everything's fine. But as soon as it comes into training, he will never question. He will ask. He's inquisitive to, why am I doing this? Why am I doing that? But he never would second guess anything, if that makes sense.
So again, there's loads of things to dissect from all this. Off the bat as well, there's it's so hard to categorize you like off the bat as an introduction because of all the sort of details and the complexity of it. Because and also with working with Micky in that sense, it kind of makes sense the more you do, because obviously the nature of, say you look up nutrition, you need to know what he's doing, and how to work out what he's doing, you need to, program that, and then to program what he's done, you need to work out how much he's burning, and then so on and so forth, and how many days he's doing stuff. So the more control you have, the more benefit you can give. And
that's exactly it.
And a big thing that Micky said in our previous podcast was he was explaining how he's got this trust in select few people that I think because he's got that kind of respect and relationship is what's driven this kind of, these kind of results. I mean, I don't want to speak on behalf of him, but that's how it came across that. Because he believes in you, in the process that you've got, that's why he's, committed to you and giving you that respect. And the fact he's inquisitive is through his own sort of, respect for you and also his own thing. Again, I don't want to speak on his behalf, but that's how it's been come across.
That's exactly it. But on the flip side to that, Dan, the two people he hates losing to are me and Sid, right? Anything, absolutely anything. So I don't actually know who's won. They had a punch-a-thon today. Have you seen that?
Yeah.
And I'm pretty sure Sid was ahead last time I checked by like 700 or 800 punches. Now, has Micky lost it?
We'll keep it official. We'll keep it a suspense for the time being. But,
Okay. I don't know what's happened, but if Micky's lost that, he's not going to let that down. Like that's going to physically hurt him for months, and I'm going to make sure that hurts him actually a little bit. But yeah, he's not going to let that down. He hates losing to us, man. Hates it. So he started. This is a funny story actually. He started jiu-jitsu. When did he start? He must have started October, November. And do you know Lee Messenger?
I believe so.
He trains at Tukin. So Lee Messenger kind of came up to me like October. He came in with his son, and there was a problem with his ankles, fixing that. I always said to him, I'm looking at jiu-jitsu, I want to come down, but I never got round to it. So Micky started, and then he started pushing me to go. I never did it for 2 or 3 months. I started in January, so I've been training for about not even 10 weeks. It must have been 10 weeks, and dude, I'm in love with it. But me and Micky will roll like maybe, I think it's like, if we can, on Mondays, right? Now, this guy, I caught him in a guillotine, Dan, right? Fluked it, like completely fluked it. I must have been like 4 or 5 weeks in training. So my God, caught him with a guillotine, right? It held for about 30 to 40 seconds. I was deep. I was like in deep. I could feel it. Slowly, Micky's I could feel his energy just like kind of like his resistance started going. He's not tapping for shit. And I could start to feel him go, right? He would never say this, right? But I let off very slightly. And he gets up. He looked through me. He didn't look at me. He looked through me. The guy, he passed. I don't give a shit what he says. He passed out at that point. But me and him have to be so careful when we're like rolling and stuff, because he will never tap. Next thing I know, he breaks his arm and ends his fucking boxing career. So there's always that fine line. So going back to it, if he goes back, him losing to Sid today is gonna kill him if he's lost. Kill him. I hope he hasn't, for Micky's sake. But yeah, it's gonna absolutely kill him, man.
You'll see him afterwards, hour by hour, just trying to beat the numbers to try and keep smashing it.
We'll see. We'll see what happens. But yeah, I don't know.
Well, that was my next sort of point I want to get onto, is your Mickey's jiu-jitsu journey. Like, how did that come about?
Yeah, mate. I love any combat sport. Any combat sport I've always loved, and like it's always jiu-jitsu's always fascinated me, but I've never kind of got. Firstly, I never found a club that I wanted to go to. Secondly, it was a time issue with me, like training time. So I work funny. So I kind of work split. So I work 10 till 2 most days, and then I work 4 to 8. Now, most jiu-jitsu is in the evening. So I was like, fuck, where can I find something? So I was looking around. Lee Messenger comes in and goes, right, 2 can have this timetable where it's a bit more flexible. You can do lunchtime, blah, 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 blah. So I started to have a look at that. Mickey started, he was like, look, we need to roll. And then from that point, after the first session of jiu-jitsu, I fell in love with it. I was like, this is my jam. Like, this is absolutely my jam. Like, there was something weird about being choked by someone and then asking them how they did it. And I was just completely amazed. I was like, fuck, this is mad. Next thing I know, the obsessive Sunny comes out. I am researching absolutely everything about jiu-jitsu. Absolutely everything. And the more I researched, the more I loved. The more I researched, the more I loved. And it was just a bad spiral, man. And then now it's just, my missus gets so annoyed at me because I'll be at home, I'll be watching no-gi competitions, I'll be listening to podcasts like with Dean Lester or Dean Lister? Dean Lister, Jocko, and then Jocko would talk about someone else. Then I'm looking at Gordon Ryan, then I'm looking at Keenan Cornelius, and then I'm looking at that. Next thing I know, it's 3 hours gone. I'm like,
then you'll get the Gary Turner and the Craig Jones rabbit hole.
Yeah, and then it just goes on. And then I click on John Danaher. I could listen to this guy for hours, hours, bro. So I listened to his podcast with Joe Rogan last week, I think, and he dissected mixed martial arts.
The four corners.
The four corners, yeah. And I was like, this guy, man. This is absolutely nuts. So he talks about the stand-up game, going into the clinch, going into fence fighting, going into the ground game, and then there's on top, on your back. And I was like, everything that he seems to talk about, I can't stop listening. And like I said to you, days will pass, and my missus is like, fuck's sake, you're looking at jiu-jitsu stuff again. I'm just obsessed with it, absolutely obsessed with it at the minute. But the second Mickey went and he come back, he goes, you're gonna love it. And then now I just want to just keep going. And the other thing about it, you constantly see progression. And I think for anyone to be happy in any part of their life, they have to be progressing at something, whether it's like minor or massive, to get some sort of happiness. Otherwise, you just get caught in that lull, man. And that's what jiu-jitsu did for me. I was like, you're working X amount of hours, you're trying to do this, you're trying to do that, you're on that merry-go-round of life. Jiu-jitsu, you take that like hour and a half away, you get choked for a bit, you come back, you work on your tap, you come back and you're thinking about it all day. You're like, how the fuck did he do that? Then you text him, you say, dude, mostly Lee message, like, how did you get me in that triangle, man? It's like, basically, you left your knee here, I pushed that, and it's just, yeah, it's a superpower, jiu-jitsu, man. It's an absolute superpower. When did you start? Because you're a blue belt 2-stripe?
I am indeed. I started jiu-jitsu 5 years ago, I want to say. 5 years ago? Because initially I was at Rising Crane.
Yeah, that's how you met Mick, right?
Yeah, I met Mickey at Rising Crane. We had a guy come over from Brazil called Rafael. He was our like jiu-jitsu instructor. And then he had to go to Malaga. I think he had some sort of visa issues or something.
Right.
And as the BJJ quieting down there, I started going to Tucum with Dave. So that's where I got so I got my blue belt under.
Oh, okay, got ya. Because I know you mentioned that he coached you previously, but I didn't know it was to that level. But you got your blue belt to him.
Yeah, I've got a lot of time for Dave, especially as a coach. Because what I really liked about his sort of style was he really dissects techniques and like the fundamentals, like the concepts and stuff.
Yeah.
And I was training there for quite a while. Then I went off to BST to focus on MMA. But still, like, I've got a lot of time and a lot of respect for Dave, and I'm more than happy to recommend people to get a chance to train with him if you get a chance, just because the way a lot of what I say with jiu-jitsu and coaching and everything else, it's about finding people whose styles really work for you.
That's it.
And, there's different kinds of people. I mean, there's cracking MMA in Bedford as well, which I go to every now and then. And their coaches with, like, Darren Allen and stuff, they're really, like, good level. And again, it's all down to how you click with people and how you gel. And for some reason, it was just, when I went to Dave's classes, I'd always, the thing from The Hangover where he's trying to work out all the numbers and everything else, that kind of...
Yeah, like Rain Man.
Yeah, that's what it felt like afterwards. Like, okay, so there's that, there's this and the other, all the intricacies and all that. Got so interested, really got a passion for it. Then as I started prioritising MMA, I sort of lost the time for the gi and then just focusing on that.
Yeah, it's hard, man. It's so hard. But yeah, he's got this, because he's got a black belt in judo and karate, it's like he pieces it all together in such a way that the sequences make sense. If that do you see what I'm saying? So it's like a lot of the time you'll see a jiu-jitsu sequence and they're like, right, do this, this, and this. He will take it from like this point to say, this is kind of how you want to do it. These are the ways you can do it, and he'll just, like you said, he breaks it down in such a way that it sticks so well for, like, even at white belt level. And then he will look at it and say, right, Sonny, try this, this, and this. I'm like, fucking hell. Oh my God, this guy's a genius. But yeah, he's a top bloke, man. But yeah, you're going back to what you were saying about your UFC, bro, mixed martial arts. So you started training jiu-jitsu first and then got into your mixed martial arts.
Some from column A, some from column B. So I started MMA, found jiu-jitsu, fell in love with the gi. And as much as I was an MMA practitioner then, I really was more jiu-jitsu. I really just fell in love with it. And then as I started doing more MMA, I realised how my jiu-jitsu wasn't applicable. Because the style I was playing and the way I was doing it was very sport-related, I would feel like it was... I don't know, I'd feel like I needed to tidy up other areas. It'd be more fundamentals-based, a lot more top game and that kind of stuff. And as that kind of fell more in love with MMA, I sort of got a bit of a kick for it again, because I think initially... MMA is horrible, it's hard. As much fun as it is, it can be pretty unforgiving. Same way jiu-jitsu can, but getting punched in the face changes it quite a lot.
It's a different level, man. Like, it looks completely different. When I see Khabib, for example, he's on top of someone and he's pounding them, and you can see a little bit of their soul leave. Do you know what I mean? Like, you can see a little bit of their soul leave, and it's just like, this guy is never going to be the same again. I think Kamaru Usman put it quite well. Like, every fight takes something from you. And that's the only thing I can see with that UFC game. And anyone that steps into the cage, I have the utmost respect for. Anyone that steps into a combat sport, I have the utmost respect for. Because what you have to do outside of it, no one will see. And then everything gets put on the line. It's the ultimate show of vulnerability. And then everything can get taken away from you like that. Or you become victorious like that. And everything that puts into it is just absolutely immense. So the fact that you're doing it is mental, man.
I mean, all of it is pretty insane if you think about what you're doing voluntarily and what for. Like, effort in versus return on investment really doesn't add up. So we don't think about that. We ignore that a little bit about, trying to lose 10% of your body weight and all this kind of stuff, and beat up your friends all day long. But I think a huge reason why my jiu-jitsu especially is so appealing to so many people, because it really appeals to that problem-solving element of, like, the brain, and people really like puzzles and all that are really quite addictive. Yeah. I think it falls into that of, like, understanding things, and as you keep learning, the puzzles keep getting solved in certain elements. It's like a big flowchart, and you can. But yeah, it's just so interesting, especially like the camaraderie as well, because there's something about that honesty of when you get absolutely smashed by someone, and afterwards you just shake hands like, yeah, cheers for that. Tell me how you did that.
Yeah, mate, I think, do you know what? I've always said this, they need to teach some sort of martial art in school, or jiu-jitsu would be the absolute perfect thing, almost like PE. In PE, you have a curriculum of jiu-jitsu. It's controlled bullying. Like, it is controlled bullying. And I think it will breed so many better members of society if there was controlled bullying. Like, doing jiu-jitsu and problem solving under fatigue and getting your ass handed to you and understanding the fact there's always someone better than you, there's always someone below you, and you put that all together, you walk around the streets and you think, hey, if I have a problem in life, this is nothing. Do you know what I mean?
I 1,000,000%. If you think like, oh, am I stressed at work or am I stressed being under someone's side control about to like rip my arm off?
You don't know stress, bro. You don't know stress if you think being stressed at work is that. Like being in a triangle choke and having to tap to, like, let's put it straight, right? When you look at jiu-jitsu practitioners, let's use David as an example, right? You look at him, right? And he doesn't look like he could kill you. David will put you on your ass, snap this off, and then choke you. But he doesn't look like that type of guy. And that's the thing with like Brazilian jiu-jitsu practitioners. They're so like chill. They have this certain mannerism, but they will kill you, bro. Kill you.
Have you seen all the memes of, like, people you should be afraid of versus the people you are afraid of? Like all the big scary like tattoo guys. You see like, you know, the sort of specky black belts who are like ridiculously good and like play out your knees.
Yeah, it's so true, man.
Have you started learning the leg lock game and everything? That's when you start really starting. I don't even know.
Oh. So again, going back to Lee, who got me into it, he is massive on leg locks. Like he loves his leg locks. Now it was quite frowned upon originally, wasn't it? Jiu-jitsu, like with their leg locks, and I think it's only recently started coming into it. And it was actually off that. It was the back of the podcast that I was listening to when John Danaher. It was Dean Lister that said it's John Danaher saying, why would you ignore 50% of the body? And it's so true. And they started implementing it at Tukun, but there's still some people who aren't. Like you start looking for the legs and they kind of look at you like, bro, what are you doing? But I'm like, listen, I'm not passing your guard, so I'm going for your legs, man.
I mean, that's the reality of it though, because it used to be seen as sort of like a sort of cheap sort of, you know, oh, it's a sign of disrespect because you can't do X, Y, and Z. And again, with heel hooks and all the rest of it in like training, it's always a bit of a grey area. But I don't know, my rule of thumb with that has always been catch and release. Like you get it secure. You haven't got to yank it on. You give your training partner a bit of a nod. You either let them escape in transition or they, you know what's happened. So that way you're aware of it and you've got time to react. But even then, it's no more dangerous than a Kimura is. But because it's the leg, we changed the rules.
Yeah, everyone panics. I think it was Faraz Zabi, George St. Pierre's trainer, that says in his gym, if your partner gets injured, it's your fault, which is kind of a good way to take into like when you go into the mats, you know, like you hold it there for like 2 to 3 seconds and like you say, right, okay, yeah, cool, let's move on. Like they know if you've been caught in it. Do you know what I mean? Like they know, man.
Well, that's just like an underlying respect kind of thing. So here's a question for you. After lockdown, do you plan on competing in jiu-jitsu at all?
It's a bit of the problem with me, Dan, is like I said to you before, I'm quite obsessive. So like, I've had a few fights like boxing and all the rest of it, and I'll get so into it that when you mention the word competition, it turns it onto a different scale. If I compete, it's the only thing that I will be focusing on. And I've got too many plates spinning in my life at the minute in terms of like work, this, that, and the other. I would love to compete. Absolutely love to compete. If I didn't have a business to run and trying to get this business back on its feet again post-coronavirus, the answer would be yes. I would absolutely love to compete. But I don't think I'm going to. Timing wise, I don't think I'm going to. Maybe next year. But right now, I don't think it's sensible to. My missus would beat the crap out of me if I said, right, I'm competing in jiu-jitsu.
I mean, that is obviously the adverse side of having that kind of, what's the meticulous kind of mannerism, what's the meticulous behaviour kind of thing of trying to make sure whatever you're doing it properly and investing the right time in it. So I guess it kind of restricts the amount of things you can do because you're prioritising doing them properly. But again, it makes sense that you've got that oversight to then plan out these things. Whereas, I don't know, I'm more than happy to drop something to do something else. But I think it's foresight, I think, and maturity, I think I'm missing on that. But either way around.
Nah, it's one of those. I think, was it Dave had a competition going, didn't he? I think he was set for April. David Webb, did he have I'm sure it was April because Mickey was going to compete in it, but obviously that got pushed back now.
Sorry, the Bedford Open. Yeah, that was
Bedford Open. That's it.
Bit pushed back to June. Yeah, I'm doing that one.
Are you You competing?
I'm indeed.
Oh, sweet. Yeah, I'll be down there, man. How many competitions you had in jiu-jitsu?
20 something now, I think, maybe more.
Oh shit! So you like your jiu-jitsu competitions, man?
Well, like's the wrong word. When I was a white belt, had the worst. Oh my god, it was horrible. Just the stress, the pure panic of it. I felt like I was going up for my execution. It basically looked like that as well. Because my first 3 or 4 it took for me to get comfortable, because I was just panicking. Like, because don't get me wrong, like even at a white belt at that stage, I had a rough idea of what I was doing. Like, it wasn't like, I was anything amazing, but I knew what a takedown was. I knew what my guard was and basic escapes and stuff. But when it came to stepping on the mat, my heart was beating out of my chest. I couldn't do anything. Like, I remember my first match with his name's Adam Haynes. This was over in Manchester. It was at one of the early Empire grappling events. And when we had our match, if he didn't take me down, we'd be standing the whole match because I was so scared and so like panicking. I was just gripping up for nothing. He was so sound as well, but like, I was thinking, I don't know why it was so panicky. Like, it wasn't.
Yeah, it's competition, isn't it? It's competition, and that's where it kind of comes back to. Like, you can get people who like take you out of that competition in the gym. You probably be schooling everyone, and you know what you want to do. You have a plan.
In an ideal world.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. You have a plan, and then, but soon as someone mentions competition, it's a different kettle of fish. Equally, on the flip side of it, there's people in the gym who are terrible, and you think you're going to get battered in competition, but they walk through, they step onto the mat, they walk in the ring or whatever they're doing, even in football, for example, and it's like they flourish. It's one of those things that you have to kind of get accustomed to, I think. And like you said, it took you 3 or 4 competitions, and then it was just like, well, I'm just turning up to eat my dinner.
Well, this is it. You learn a lot of different ways of dealing with things. And a huge thing I took from that is learning that it's not a one-size-fits-all. Because, say that first competition, I mentioned earlier Darren Allen, who trains at he coaches at Kraken. I used to go to competitions with him, and he'd always clean up. He'd always get like the golds and like the medals and stuff. But what he was doing really worked well for him. But as much as I tried to emulate that and expected the same results, it just wouldn't happen.
Yeah.
And as much as you think this is the way it's done, there's more ways of doing these things, and like, I've gradually built my confidence and built certain like skills and stuff. But as a whole, I'm just more relaxed and I enjoy it. Like, my last competition, I do like flying triangles and stuff and just have a bit of fun and try stuff. Yeah,
because you think at the end of the day, what is there to lose, right? Barring your ego being battered in competition.
Big loss.
Yeah, there's like
high risk.
Yeah, there's like you haven't okay, maybe like the medals, obviously, but in terms of you as a person, like, everything's going to carry on pre and post competition. Do you know what I mean? Like, especially for like jiu-jitsu, because it's still classed as amateur, I think. Is that right?
Well, jiu-jitsu, I don't really know what the definition is between the two of them, because it's done by rule set as a rule, for lack of better words. Because you get like Polaris Professional Jiu-Jitsu. I don't know what that means.
Right.
Because the rule set hasn't changed. You do sub-only comps. They're not classed as professional or amateur. And there's an interesting quote. I think it's Aristotle or someone. It's not the titles that have the value. It's the value you give the titles, or something to that extent. That this,
that's totally spot
like
on,
my plastic medals upstairs from some of my competitions. Yes, they are, or cheap gold, whatever it is. Like, they only have as much weight as I give them. If I just pick one up from, like, I don't know, order them online, that has the same intrinsic value as the one I've earned. But I associate that. I associate that value from the memory of a competition. Like, my first medal was a bronze. I think it was a blue belt. I'm not sure.
Yeah.
And it meant the absolute world to me. I felt like I just won an Olympics.
Well, that's it, man. That's it. And the psychology, and this is something I want to kind of dive into post coronavirus, especially with like another string to our business, is I want to get into like the psychological element of sport and performance sport, because it's so, with everything around mental health and, the stuff going around at the minute, it's such a big area that I'm not saying hasn't been explored yet, but it's kind of like missed in training. So let's say, for example, a white collar fighter, right? The normal consensus would be, right, you train for X amount of weeks, you run X amount of miles, you punch X amount of like punch bags, you're on the mitts for this long, and then you go fight, right? if you don't understand the psychology of competition and training and the reasons behind everything, you can get the same people who train exactly the same weight, same skill set, same everything. But if someone's got a better mindset, they're going to win all day. And it's something that gets heavily missed in this kind of level sport. Yes, elite level sport, they're quite big on it. But yeah, it's something that I really want to try and press when we come out of this. I want to try and open another string to our business where we focus on that a little bit more. Obviously not me. This is a completely different field. Anything physiological, I can learn. Anything psychological, I wouldn't have a clue. So I'd love to like employ someone in and say, right, this is the kind of aspect we want to look at and really, really push it. Because it's definitely a bridge that needs to be sorted.
Because it's a huge part of it, really. Because you always see people who perform to a different level to you, and you think, oh, I can say beat them in the gym or this and the other, but on game day I can't do it. And that's the real wall between. If you couldn't make the weight because you aren't eating right, you'd sort out your diet, wouldn't you?
Exactly.
So adversely, if you can't get your head right to compete, you've got to try and work out what you need to do to work with your current, assets and attributes. Because it's how you perceive a lot of things. Because obviously, like competition nerves and anxieties that ways around, they're always conceived as a bad thing. Whereas some people take them as, oh, I'm glad I feel nervous. It means I care. It means I'm aware. That kind of thing. So it's all perspective of this kind of thing. And I think a huge part of it is understanding that it's not a one size fits all.
No, it's not a one size fits all. There's a really good, and this is more from a coaching aspect. Like when I'm doing like strength conditioning work with like Joe Blogs or see Mickey or Dan McGowan or something. Like the psychology that goes behind the coaching aspect is big as well. There's a book by Brett Bartholomew called Conscious Coaching, and it's like I said, it's trying to knowing your athlete and getting the best out of that session. Using like the psychology or psychological cues. So, for example, if I wanted an athlete to jump, right, and I said, right, jump as high as you can, they jumped. Something just as simple as a cue as now explode as high as you can. Just that word explode will change their whole mindset and change the trigger on everything in that movement. And I'm starting to try and bring it in a lot more. And I'm telling my guys at work, right, really try and get your head around this to get the best out of your sessions. So yeah, it's a big field that needs to be explored, man.
So talk us more about Kinetic Sport Performance then. What is that company? What do they offer? Just give me more of an insight.
Yeah, sure. So how it originally started was bloody hell. So I was at going back to it, Youth Engagement Solutions with Mickey, and I was studying at the time. I wasn't really practicing sports therapy. I was predominantly teaching, and just to keep my sort of hand in it, I was just offering mobile treatments. So I used to put a plinth in the back of my car. If Mickey was around, he used to come with me or whatever. And I just started treating people. From there, after that, everyone was like, oh, can I have a business card? And I was like, I don't really have any. So went on one-on-one. Was it one-on-one?
On Vistaprint or whatever.
Vistaprint, that's it. Went on Vistaprint. And I was talking to my brother, and I was like, what the hell should I call this thing? So we were just batting a few ideas around. And then I think it was someone said, what about Kinetic? And I was like, let me think about this. So I started having a look at it, started to throw the word around, started talking to myself in the mirror, Kinetic, seeing how it sounds. And I was like, I think I'm vibing with that. Then Kinetic Sports Therapy was born originally. So that's kind of what I was doing. And from mobile, I moved into a beauty clinic underneath. So in Bedford, there's a hairdresser called Jagged Edge, barbers called Jagged Edge, and underneath there was a beauty, I don't know what they're called, like a beauty type treatment rooms, right? And I just hired a beauty room and just did manual therapy after work. So I'd go to teach all day, and then I'll get an appointment from like someone would just ring me and say, yeah, come in here, come in here, come in there. And I just started doing little bits of manual therapy here and there. Next thing I know, I was working at Northampton Town Football Club, as a sports therapist there. After that, my girlfriend at the time, she was working for Swiss Netball, and they said we need a physio at Swiss Netball. So I was like, they don't want to take me on. Like, I'm studying for my masters. I'm an undergrad in sports therapy. I'm doing this, this, and this. She was like, just apply. Applied for that. Started talking to them. They flew me over on a weekend. I was starting to speak to the girls over there, started treating them. And they said, look, we want to have you back for a tournament. Came back for a tournament. That was kind of my trial phase. Next thing I know, I was working for Swiss Netball. Swiss Netball, so I was flying there every 3 to 4 weeks on a weekend. I was finishing my masters. I had Kinetic sports therapy underneath a barber's, and I was working at Youth Engagement Solutions at the same time. So all this was happening over about 2 years, and then I completely burnt out. Like,
oh really? I wonder how that happened.
Yeah, exactly. But at that time, you just think, yeah, I'll do this, I'll do this, I'll do this, and I just completely burnt out. And I was like, right, I need to redefine everything. So, finished my masters, started doing bits and pieces in Kinetic, got rid of my teaching job, and I was like, right, I just need to focus on the clinic now. Got another premises at Gold's Gym, started treating there, and Gold's Gym their facilities were amazing. I think they changed to World's Gym now, and now I think they're Gaines in Bedford. But their facilities were amazing. So they had a really good rehab room at the back. And then that's when the strength conditioning side started to come out. So I started to push a lot more strength conditioning. Me and a few other guys there. And the next thing I knew, I looked to buy and purchase another clinic in, what was his name? Chris Kirk. It was in Shefford. That's it, in Shefford. So I had Gold's Gym, I had a clinic in Shefford, and then I had Studio 281. So I had 3. The clinic in Shefford didn't work out. Gold's Gym were changing to another franchise, and then I'm currently just working at Studio 281. So all that time, I was developing all these different skills in, firstly, sports therapy, and then strength conditioning, who like Ben sort of looks after. He like writes a lot of the plans with, and then something else happened, and everything just kept evolving. And I think in business as well as life, you've got to be dynamic in order to survive. And then, yeah, it just blew up, man. Next thing I know, I'm helping Dan McGowan, who's like a big. Have you heard of Dan McGowan?
He was on the last podcast, so when that releases, you'll hear him shout you out as well.
Was he?
Yeah.
I've not even heard of that. So yeah, Dan McGowan's hand messed up, and then I'm working with like these top guys, and it just blew up from there, man.
So how do people get in touch with, say, with the Kinetic Sports Performance then? What kind of people do you normally cater for?
So we go from anything from your weekend warrior to your elite level sports athlete. So Joe, who just plays 11-a-side on a Sunday, or even Jenny, who's just an office worker who's got some back pain, all the way through to
Dan Lester.
Yeah, exactly. To your Dan Lesters of the world. We cater for all of them, man. So that's how we kind of work in terms of our services. But in terms of contacting, our website, so www.kineticsp.co.uk, we'll have a list of all our services up there. And then you'll be able to purchase your services. Everything's down at the minute because we're not running, but you can purchase all your services up there. Now, anything that needs to kind of be tailored to say, yourself, for example, who said, right, I want to have, as part of my package, I want physio, I want weight cut, I want S&C plans, I want this, and this, and we can put together bespoke packages per athletes as well. So website is the main one they need to look at. We've got an Instagram as well, which is Kinetic_SP. We've got a Facebook page with Kinetic Sports Performance, and I think that's it. If you can't get any of them, then obviously you can contact myself personally. But yeah, I'm a bit slow when it comes to getting back to people because it's always come through my phone.
I mean, that is pretty detailed. Fair play to you, man. Fair play to you. Listen, it's been an absolute pleasure having you on.
No problem.
Is there anyone you want to shout out before we head off?
Well, better shout out my friends and family. Better shout out my missus. And then that's it. Hopefully everyone stays safe and well. Stay inside. But yeah, that's pretty much it, man. Thanks for having me, Dan.
You're more than welcome, mate. So this episode is sponsored by Mauler MMA. Use code FC MMA was it FC MMA 20 for 20% discount at checkout on all MMA attire and gloves. Take care, guys. Stay safe and stay inside.